Hello friends, so welcome to this next video in the process of risk management. So here in this video we are going to see risk monitoring, analysis and control of unanticipated risk. Topic is subdivided into four major parts. First is the surveillance procedure, second is the internal sources of risk information, third is the external sources of risk information, and fourth is the immediate actions to reduce the risk. So first of all we will see the risk surveillance procedure. The laboratories must establish, document and maintain a suitable procedure to collect, review and analyze informations about risk associated with pre-examination, examination and post-examination processes. So basically the laboratories must have a procedure in place. The laboratories not only should collect this data, but there should be a appropriate procedure which is established, documented and maintained for this surveillance procedure. So whenever any laboratory wants to establish a surveillance system or surveillance procedure, the laboratory must consider few things. First of all is the mechanism, or from where the source of information, from which source the information is going to get generated. Whether it is by the healthcare providers, any IVD medical device manufacturers, or those personnels who are involved in the installation and servicing of the IVD equipment. The second thing the laboratory must consider for the surveillance system is what are the new and revised healthcare regulations and standards with respect to the standard medical practices or standard clinical scenario. Important aspect which a laboratory must consider while establishing a surveillance system. Now the surveillance system must be based on risk-based alert and action triggers to ensure timely response to any identified risk or any identified hazard. Whatever information which is collected as a risk monitoring must be evaluated to ensure that the risk control remain effective and the risk remains within the acceptable limit as per the laboratory's own protocol. Now the laboratory must determine if any unanticipated failure mode, user error, hazards or hazardous situations or any harm may have occurred. The laboratory must determine the previously unrecognized potential for any of these events to occur which may be present, and the laboratory must estimate the risk arising from a hazardous situation which may be no longer acceptable. If any of these conditions or if any of these scenarios are occurring or noticed in the laboratory must take immediate action to reduce the imminent risk to patients or users first evaluated, and if there are any risks, appropriate actions must be taken by the laboratory to address the risk. The next thing is the evaluation of the impact on previously implemented risk management activities, and it must be put in the risk management process. Finally, the review of the risk management documentation for the examination or services must be conducted. If there are any more potential risk or acceptability may change, the impact or previously implemented risk controls measures must be evaluated. The results of this evaluation must be documented and recorded in the risk management document. Now monitoring of this anticipated risk are basically subject to national regulations. The next aspect is internal sources of information. So what are the internal sources of risk information in the laboratory? So here are some of the internal sources of risk information. Data is generated which is evaluated for the surveillance of the risk. First of all is the performance evaluation studies. Second is the statistical quality control data. Third is the incident reports. Fourth is the complaints and non-conformities or corrective actions. And fifth is the internal audits and other evaluations. So basically these are the internal sources from where the data can be generated for any risk or for any hazardous situations. These internal sources of information must be looked for the source of risk. Next thing for data collection for the surveillance of risk is the external sources. So these external sources can act as a source of information and data which is collected or which gathered outside of the laboratory, which includes QA report, that is external quality assurance service reports, physician complaints, manufacturers advisory notices. For this purpose, many a times we have seen there are mail communication from the product developers or IVD manufacturers, which includes a product recall, field correction or safety notices. This must be evaluated for any risk hazardous situations. Next source is regulatory authorities, adverse evidence databases, literature reports and audits from the accreditation bodies. So these are some of the external sources of information from which data with respect to the risk can be generated. Now the next part is the immediate actions to reduce the risk. So whenever we have done a surveillance for collecting information with respect to the risk, or whenever we have gathered data from internal or external sources with respect to the risk, what are the immediate actions to be taken to reduce the risk? So if examination results reported by laboratory are found to be present in an unacceptable risk to patients, immediate actions must be taken. Actions to reduce the risk includes alert the affected healthcare providers with respect to the erroneous results. If possible, repeat the examination and revise report to correct the erroneous results. Next, notify the healthcare providers for changes in the diagnostic performance. After that, update and issue a revised reference ranges and suspend further examination until the cause is corrected. The another type of immediate action is the notify the IVD manufacturer of any clinically significant malfunction, use error or deficiency in IVD device design or labeling. Such type of reports or adverse incidents or accidents must be reported to the authorities wherever it is appropriate and also must be informed to the manufacturers. The immediate actions may also include an investigations to determine the root causes and reassessment of the risk after a due corrective actions and preventive actions are taken. So here in this video we have seen about the risk monitoring, analysis and control of unanticipated risk with the help of external and internal data and surveillance procedure of the laboratory. Stay tuned for the complete series on risk management in clinical laboratory.